Oh, honey, it was just a small ceremony, not worth the 4-hour drive. My mother's laughter echoed through the phone, casual and dismissive, as if she were explaining why she skipped a routine dinner invitation rather than the most important day of my life. Besides, your sister needed help moving into her new apartment that weekend. You understand, right? I gripped my phone tighter, staring at the beautiful wedding photo on my desk. James and I had created a perfect intimate ceremony with just 30 of our closest friends and family. Well, almost family. The 2 empty seats in the front rows still haunted me. No, Mom, I don't understand, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. It was my wedding day. My father's voice joined in from the background, chuckling along with my mother. Hannah, sweetheart, when you have a proper wedding at the country club like your sister's planning, we'll be there front and center. But that little garden thing you did. Come on. Little garden thing. Those words hit me like a physical blow. We'd chosen the botanical gardens because James had proposed there, under the cherry blossoms. We'd spent months planning every detail, making it perfect despite our modest budget. But to them, it would never be enough. Well, I said, fighting to keep my voice from trembling. I just wanted to know why. Now I do. I hung up before they could hear the tears in my voice. James found me later that evening, curled up in our home office, looking through our wedding album. He sat beside me, his presence warm and comforting. They still don't get it, do they? He asked softly. I shook my head, tracing my finger over a photo of us exchanging vows. They never will. To them, everything I do is second-rate compared to Katie. Even my wedding day wasn't worth a 4-hour drive. It had always been this way. Katie was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. When she got into state college, our parents threw a massive party. When I earned a full scholarship to medical school, they simply nodded and asked if I'd heard about Katie's new job as a real estate agent. You know what hurts the most? I said, looking up at James. They're laughing about it. Like missing their daughter's wedding is some kind of joke. James wrapped his arm around me, pulling me close. Their loss, he said firmly. Look at what they missed. He pointed to a photo of our first dance, the fairy lights twinkling above us, our faces glowing with joy. This was perfect. You're perfect. 5 years passed. I built a successful medical practice, specializing in pediatric care. James and I bought our dream house, traveled, and created a life filled with love and respect. My parents remained distant, showing up occasionally for obligatory holiday calls, always more interested in updating me about Katie's latest achievements than asking about my life. Then came the call that changed everything. It was a quiet Tuesday evening. James and I were preparing dinner when my phone rang. Seeing my father's number, I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in me made me answer. Anna? His voice was different, shaky, desperate. We need your help. I stirred the pasta sauce slowly, remembering their laughter from 5 years ago. Oh, it's bad. The investment. Everything's gone. The house, our savings. We didn't know who else to call. Katie's not answering her phone. Of course she wasn't. Katie had taken their money for years, promising huge returns on guaranteed investments. I'd warned them, but they'd laughed that off too. Oh, Anna, you don't understand business like your sister does. Everything's gone. I kept my voice neutral, even as my hand tightened around the wooden spoon. All of it. My mother's voice cracked in the background. We need help, Anna. We have nowhere else to go. I thought about those empty seats at my wedding, about years of dismissal and disappointment, about laughter when they should have shown remorse. Anna? My father prompted when I remained silent. Please, we're your parents. James caught my eye across the kitchen, raising an eyebrow in silent question. I took a deep breath, a small, ironic smile playing at my lips. Oh, I said, my voice light and casual, exactly the way my mother's had been 5 years ago. I don't know. Coming to help you. It's a 4-hour drive. Not sure if it's worth the trip. The silence on the other end was deafening. The silence stretched for what felt like minutes before my mother's voice cracked through the phone. Anna, please, this isn't like your wedding. This is serious. There it was. The confirmation that to them, my wedding day hadn't been serious. Just another event they could dismiss, another moment they could laugh off. You're right, Mom, I replied, my voice steady. This isn't like my wedding. This is about money, and suddenly, I'm worth the call. James moved closer, resting his hand on my shoulder in silent support. He knew every hurt, every dismissal, every moment they'd chosen Katie over me. He'd been there through it all, watching as they missed not just our wedding, but every milestone that followed. "We don't have anywhere else to go," my father pleaded, his usual confident tone replaced by desperation. "Katie's investments, they weren't what she promised. We lost everything." I stirred the pasta sauce mechanically, remembering the day 2 years ago when I tried to warn them about Katie's investment opportunities. She'd been pushing them to liquidate their retirement accounts, promising triple returns through her exclusive real estate deals. "Dad," I'd said during the rare family dinner, "these returns she's promising, they're not realistic. I have colleagues who lost everything in similar schemes." They'd laugh then too. "Oh, Anna," my mother had said, patting my hand condescendingly, "just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you understand business. Katie knows what she's doing." Now, as their world crumbled, they wanted me to be their safety net. "The bank is foreclosing next week," my father continued. "We thought maybe we could stay with you and James for a while, just until we get back on our feet." I looked around our home, the one James and I had worked so hard to build. The house we'd bought without any help from family, the life we created despite their absence. "You know what I remember most about my wedding day?" I asked, changing the subject abruptly, looking at those empty seats in the front row. Everyone asking where my parents were, having to smile and explain that you were busy helping Katie move. "Anna, that was 5 years ago," my mother interjected. "Can't you let it go?" Let it go. I felt a laugh bubble up, not unlike their dismissive chuckles from years past. "Like you let go of every school play you missed for Katie's dance recitals? Every achievement you dismissed because Katie had something more important happening?" James squeezed my shoulder gently. He knew where this was going, knew I needed to say these words. "When I got into medical school with a full scholarship, you didn't even come to the acceptance ceremony. You were at Katie's open house showing. When I graduated top of my class, you sent a card because Katie had a spa weekend planned for you." "We're sorry," my father said quietly. "We know we've made mistakes." "No," I replied, "you're not sorry about the mistakes. You're sorry you need something from me now. There's a difference." The line went quiet again. I could hear my mother's muffled sobs in the background, my father's heavy breathing. For the first time in my life, they were listening to me. "Anna," my father started again, "what do you want us to say?" I thought about that question. What did I want them to say? What words could possibly make up for years of neglect, of choosing Katie, of laughing off my pain? "I don't want you to say anything," I finally answered. "I want you to understand how it feels. To need someone and have them laugh it off as unimportant. To have your pain dismissed as not worth the effort." I could feel James watching me, could see the pride in his eyes. He'd watched me grow from the person who desperately sought their approval to someone who knew her own worth. "We do understand," my mother whispered. "We understand now." But did they? Or were they just saying what they thought I wanted to hear because they needed something from me? "I'll think about it," I said finally. "I'll call you back tomorrow." Before they could respond, I ended the call, placing my phone face down on the counter. James immediately pulled me into a hug, and I let myself sink into his embrace. "You okay?" he asked softly. "No," I admitted. "But I will be." We stood there in our kitchen, the pasta sauce now forgotten on the stove. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across our garden, the one we planted together, much like the garden where we'd exchanged our vows. "You don't owe them anything," James reminded me gently. "I know," I replied. "But what I decide to do next, it needs to be about who I am, not who they are." The question was, who exactly did I want to be? The next morning, I sat in my office at the pediatric clinic, absently scrolling through old family photos on my phone. There weren't many. Each one seemed to feature Katie front and center, with me somewhere in the background, trying to squeeze into the frame of my own family's attention. During my lunch break, I called Grace, my closest friend and the one who had helped arrange those beautiful flowers at my wedding, the ones my parents never saw. "They have some nerve," Grace said after I explained the situation. "But the real question is, what do you want to do?" I sighed, looking at the photo on my desk of James and me on our wedding day. Part of me wants to laugh and hang up, just like they did to me all those years. But another part wants to be better than them, Grace finished. "Because that's who you are, Anna." She was right. Despite everything, I built my life around helping others. My pediatric practice wasn't just a job, it was a calling. Every day, I worked with children and families, healing not just bodies but sometimes hearts too. After my shift, I drove home the long way, passing by the botanical gardens where James and I had married. The cherry blossoms were in bloom again, just like that day. I pulled into the parking lot and sat there, thinking. When I finally got home, James was waiting. One look at my face and he knew I'd made a decision. I'm going to help them, I said quietly, but on my terms. The next morning, I called my parents. I found you an apartment, I said without preamble when my father answered. It's small but clean and safe. It's near my clinic, and the rent is reasonable. I'll pay the first 3 months. The silence on the other end was heavy. They'd been expecting to move into our spacious home, I knew, to be taken care of completely. An apartment? My mother's voice quavered. But we thought. You thought you'd move in with us, I finished. No, that's not happening. But I'm offering you a chance to rebuild, something you never offered me. How are we supposed to afford rent after 3 months? My father asked, his voice tight. The clinic where I work needs administrative staff. It's not glamorous, and it's not the country club life you're used to, but it's honest work. Both positions are yours if you want them. More silence. I could almost hear them processing this. The successful daughter they'd dismissed for years was now offering them a lifeline, but not the one they'd expected. Why? My father finally asked. Why help us at all? I thought about Grace's words about being better than them. Because I want you to understand something. Success isn't about fancy houses or country club memberships. It's about building something real, something meaningful. That's what my little garden wedding was about. That's what my whole life has been about. I heard my mother's sharp intake of breath. Anna. The apartment is available next week, I continued. The jobs start the Monday after. Take them or don't. It's your choice. But this is the only offer I'm making. That weekend, James and I drove to their soon-to-be foreclosed house to help them pack. The country club photos were gone from the walls, replaced by squares of unfaded wallpaper. Katie's Realtor Awards still sat on the mantel, now just painful reminders of their misplaced trust. As we loaded boxes into our car, my mother touched my arm. Your wedding, she said softly. The photos I saw. It was beautiful. Yes, I replied simply. It was. We should have been there. Yes, I said again. You should have. 2 months later, my parents had settled into their new life. The adjustment wasn't easy. I often heard my mother on her breaks at the clinic, crying in the bathroom. My father's hands, unused to filing and organizing, developed paper cuts and calluses. But slowly, something changed. They started seeing patients differently, not as social connections or status symbols, but as people. They watched me work, finally understanding what I built. The laughter I heard from them now was different, humbler, warmer, real. One evening, they invited James and me to dinner at their small apartment. No crystal glasses or fine china, just takeout containers and paper plates. On their wall hung a single photo, our wedding picture, the one that had sat on my desk all these years. We don't deserve your help, my father said, looking at the photo. We know that now. No, I agree, you don't. But this isn't about what you deserve. It's about who I choose to be. My mother wiped her eyes. We're proud of you, Anna. We should have said that years ago. I looked at James, who smiled and squeezed my hand. Then I looked at my parents, really looked at them. They were changed, humbled, but also more human than they'd ever been. I know, I said softly. Better late than never. And this time, when laughter filled the room, it was genuine, shared, and healing.